Julie, thank you so much for coming on the program today. It's good seeing you again.
Good seeing you.
So you have a piece at National Review, anti-bullying campaigns. Oh, but actually, before we get started here, I do want to say congratulations and my condolences again on the end of another summer. School is back in session for you and your kids.
Yes.
Did
Yes.
you take the picture this morning, like
Of
jumping for
course.
joy in front of the house?
I did a thumbs up
Yeah.
photo, and yeah, I'm very happy. But I will tell you, for all my, complaining all summer about them being home, I cried. I miss them already. I disappoint myself with these emotions. Frankly, I don't know what's wrong with me, but the house was very quiet and
need to
very
work on that.
clean. Yes, I know. So
It is. Listen, it's one of those things. As difficult as it seems sometimes in mid-August, and you're just thinking, okay, when will that day arrive? When it finally arrives, it doesn't take long. It's just a matter of minutes before you realize, for all the chaos, they're there,
Yep,
right?
yep.
And you love having your kids there. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
get it.
yeah. So anyway.
Well, enjoy the peace and quiet. And by the way, it'll be chaos by 4:30 this afternoon. You'll be like, oh, when can we start the after-school program? So,
I'll be crying for other reasons
right?
at 4:30.
So you have a piece at National Review right now talking about anti-bullying efforts, which are, I think, sort of omnipresent in our schools. But you say that these campaigns need to be targeting not just the kids, but parents as well. I mean, that seems to me to be common sense. Are they not doing that?
They're not, at least in my school, and I think in a lot of other schools. What they do is schools are big on gestures now, so they'll trot out a pledge. My children have to sign a pledge, a piece of paper that says, "I will be nice, I won't bully." And then you sign that pledge, and the school says, "Hey, look, everyone's going to be great to one another." But what I have been saying is, and I sadly have experience with this. My son had a really tough year one year with a not so nice kid in his class. And what was sad is the parents of this particular child, they weren't so nice either. And so I feel like, oftentimes you have these gestures, sign this pledge or read this book. And unless children are learning good habits at home, the golden rule, how to be kind and inclusive and, just not mean, it falls on deaf ears. And so I think schools really need to integrate parents into this and explain to them that they are ultimately responsible. And we talk about, you and I talk a lot about how schools, do kind of irrational things and have, pretty firm rules about certain things, but not when it comes to bullying. I really think that there should be tougher rules when it comes to kids acting out in this way. And look, I think that parents, if they are faced with a suspension, have to lose a week of work or vacation days because their kid's misbehaving, I think parents will step up a little bit more and demand that their children behave and be kind. So that's sort of the point of my piece.
And I see where you're coming from. Here's my concern is that we also live in the day and age of the microaggression. And at some point then do we see a spate of stories where kids are being accused of bullying, and they're doing things that maybe are questionable as to whether or not it's actually bullying. I worry that we're going to make it too easy to punish these kids and these parents. At the same time, I, like you, have experience with one of my own kids and bullying, and it got to the point where my kids ride the bus, and it's like this 15 minutes Lord of the Flies experience, apparently, where the bus driver is, there but not there, and there's no adult supervision, and it's just
chaos.
So finally, one of my kids was like, "Dad, please, can you just drive me to school?" And I asked what was happening, and it was because it was her red hair, right? She's a ginger kid. And as we know, gingers have no souls, and it's completely appropriate and acceptable to
abuse them,
make fun of mercilessly, someone for the color of their hair, and that's what was happening to my daughter. And again, there was, I'd say, very little concern about this, and that's where I think the parenting comes into play. Not necessarily. I don't know how you address the parents of the bullies, but I do know that as parents of the bullied, I think that we also have an obligation. And you talked about what you did with your own son, right? I mean, how did you explain to him what was going on and how he should respond?
Yeah. Look, I have no doubt that this is really a tough issue and a tough area, and it's hard to navigate. And frankly, I think you're right. You do have to rely on common sense of both school administrators and parents understanding what really truly is bullying. I mean, in my case, it was pretty bad and it was pretty obvious, and the school did nothing. And they also would not tell me if the parents of that child had been contacted because of privacy concerns, which I think is absurd. And so, and I don't know that would have done.
Yeah, there was a time when the parents would have been called in to the office together.
Everyone would have
and
come
it would have
in
been
the office.
Mrs. Gunlock, here's Mrs. Johnson. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
What's going on between your kids?
There just seemed to be no action. And I say in the piece, too, that the teacher said, oh, well, we'll go ahead and have the school counselor come in and read a book about bullying to the whole class. And I said, why? The whole class isn't bullying. It's this. It was in the piece I talk about one child, but it was really a group of boys, and it was 2 or 3 boys. And I said, why not? Why not target the kids that are actually misbehaving? So it was just sort of these milquetoast gestures, and that's exactly what it is. It is a gesture to make it look like the school is doing something when nothing's being done. But I agree with you, it's complicated. What I did, and you're absolutely right, that my role went beyond just dealing with the bullying and the bully and the bully's parents. My role really was as nurturer to my own child and talking to him about what this means. This is exactly the wrong way to behave. We behave in a different way. This child, for whatever reason, is not being polite and kind and has no manners. And so I talked about the good parts of this difficult year. My child is pretty sensitive now, and he really gravitates towards, I would say, sort of the smarter, nicer kids, the kids that are closer to their parents, which I think is a great result of this. I mean, it was a tough year, but it resulted in some good things. But again, I was disgusted with how the school administration handled it, how the teacher handled it, and the lack of sort of movement on this. So I agree with you that this could open up to that sort of oversensitivity about things. But I don't even think we're there. I think schools.
The pendulum swinging the other way.
Yeah, I think schools are so terrified of this issue that they do nothing for fear of doing something illegal or making someone mad.
Well, not that they do nothing, because as you say, we have all of these anti-bullying campaigns, right? But they're not doing anything that works.
But they don't target the kids. They don't actually.
Right.
It's
so it's all feel-good measures for them, so they can check the box and say we've done this.
It's putting a huge blanket over every kid and saying, okay, we're not going to actually address the kids who are actually doing it because we don't want to target them, we don't want to single them out, but they need to be singled out, and their parents need to be told, you've got a terrible kid on your hands here who is, really brutalizing some other children. I mean, again, it was a conversation with the whole class, not the actual kid who is doing it. And so that, to me, it's pointless. And again, it's just to make it look like they're doing something when nothing's being done to protect these kids. Look, we've got a real problem in the school, and I don't know if parents are not teaching their children just basic morals and how to get along in society. But we've seen this. I mean, I've talked about this. Julie Lythcott-Haims, who wrote this book about how to raise an adult. You've written a book about, these are basic things that you need to do to become an adult, and these are your basic responsibilities. And I think more and more now people are, as people are growing up, Julie talks about in her book how kids don't know how to cut their own meat. They don't know how to do their own laundry. There's some basic things. But I think it's the basics of how to treat another human being is being lost. I think parents, hover over their kids and do too many things for their kids, but they don't teach them. I think less and less now do people teach their kids about manners and kindness. And so we're seeing this manifest in schools.
Well, and the thing is, it may be that in person, maybe we could call this the Eddie Haskell syndrome, Julie, where in person, when you're interacting with your parents, you're still, showing a modicum of respect. Yeah, mom. Yeah, dad. I'll do my chores whenever. But our parents are not usually looking over our shoulders when we're online, right? And I'm not constantly peering at my son as he's texting with his friends or using Snapchat or whatever. He's 16 now. He's aware. We've got his passwords. We can look at his phone anytime we want, but we don't. He's a good kid. I have no indication that he's doing anything like that he shouldn't be doing. But it just strikes me that we're not around a lot of times when our kids are posting on social media and engaging in this type of behavior. So when there's this peer-to-peer interaction, right? All of a sudden, the other side of Eddie Haskell comes out, and it's not, "Hi, Mrs. Cleaver, you look lovely today," right? Now it's
Yeah.
Bad Eddie who's coming out, and I just wonder if we're not seeing that, and maybe, look again, maybe the answer is that you're policing your kids' social media more than what we have been. I don't know about you, but growing up, there was always the possibility that when you're talking on the phone to your friends or to your girlfriend or whatever, a parent would then pick up the other extension, right? There was always that possibility
Sure.
of an adult listening in on the conversation.
Right.
I don't know. Our kids don't have it. And again, it seems like you're right. Like there's that same sort of, Lord of the Flies aspect to online behavior, or at least behavior when adults aren't around.
My kids aren't perfect. I'm sure that they have, when I'm not around, done things that would disappoint me. And treated people probably not so nicely. I'm sure there are moments like that, but there's a difference between the occasional Eddie Haskell appearance and a systematic, everyday, sort of brutal treatment by a child who actually enjoys hurting another child every single day. That's different. That's bullying. Mm-hmm. That's true bullying. And yes, I do think we need to make a distinction. I mean, I have actually had conversations with my child about how certain behaviors are going to invite bullying. So don't do those things, and there can be some good conversations that come out of these kind of tough situations for kids. And so I do think that most parents, I don't want to sit up here and go, I teach my children manners and I have a quiz every Wednesday and it's great. I'm sure that they have moments that I wouldn't be proud of, but I think you teach your kids how to treat other people. You treat your wife nicely. You treat your other children with kindness and respect. And I think that all matters. What I'm concerned about is when schools obviously have a child who's being raised by people who are not instilling these rules and these lessons. I think it's important that the school make clear to the parents that they have got to do better. And I know that because ultimately this is a parent's responsibility, right? And too often the schools do their own bullying programs that in no way involve the parents. And so this stuff goes in one ear and out the other if you've got parents who are not instilling this stuff. So, I do agree that, I don't see my kids. They're at school right now. I hope they're being good. But I think there's a difference here. And I think schools have to be better about handling that.
All right, again, we're talking with Julie Gunlock of the Independent Women's Forum. Listen, we only have a couple minutes left, but I saw this story yesterday, and I immediately thought of you. At courts, the headline, "To lure people put off by the freakiness of lab-made meat, this is what the industry wants to call it." Do you know what the industry wants to call it,
No, I don't.
Julie?
No.
Yeah. Clean food.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
Gross.
Because who wants to eat dirty food, right?
Gross. Oh, please. God, these labels.
And meat made in a lab is obviously it's got to be cleaner than, meat raised on a farm somewhere with all the dirt and poop and right.
Meat,
so
the meat
eat your lab grown clean food.
Yum, delicious. Look, I really am excited about this lab grown meat. I'm really into technological advances and how this stuff can help us. We have an expanding population. I mean, how are we going to feed all these people? That's why I'm very excited about biotechnology. Lab-grown meat is really exciting. And look, I think it can really revolutionize things for people and really will revolutionize sort of animal husbandry and raising animals and all this stuff. I think it's very exciting. But again, this whole, that right there it's a term with a value. It's clean and dirty. If you want to eat clean, eat our food. It's definitely getting into this whole marketing mumbo jumbo where, this is healthy, this is natural, this is this, So yeah, it's too bad that they've taken that step. I hope they roll that back a little bit.
I do too, and we may have found another area of disagreement at some point. We'll have to explore. I'm not a fan of the lab grown meat. Not a fan of
What? Why?
man-made meat. No,
Scary.
I like my meat the old-fashioned way.
Well, look, if they can produce something, that is, look, I'm no Al Gore environmentalist here, but if they can produce something that is sort of produced in a way that's better for the environment, that's cheaper, that produces cheaper or healthier items, there's nothing to object to. And I don't think it'll replace, heritage hogs and meat that, is grown the conventional way. But it's nice to have options.
There's something very David Cronenberg about it. I don't know. I'm just not into it.
Okay.
Julie Gunlock of the Independent Women's Forum. I don't want to bully you or anything, though,
Yeah.
so we're going to just drop it. We'll let it go.
I feel so bad.
You are entitled to your opinion. We'll have a
I'm
we'll have a
early
good
for
conversation about it.
I'm
when
early
we have
for my
more time.
afternoon cry. I'm early.
Oh, no. I do not make people cry on
No,
this
I'm
program.
kidding,
All
I'm
right,
kidding.
listen. Have yourself a wonderful week. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll talk again soon on the
Yes.
Bespoke Parenting Hour
Tomorrow.
podcast.
Yes, tomorrow. I'm looking forward. We'll probably repeat this whole conversation.
We'll
kidding.
continue.
Yes.
We won't repeat it. We'll continue the conversation. Julie Gunlock with the Independent Women's Forum. Thank you. We'll see you soon.
Thanks.